So you clicked on this video because you want to start your own record label. Whether you're already working with artists or you're independent, either way, you just want to establish your label. So these are the steps that you need to keep in mind to get you started. Let's get into it. Hi guys, I'm Miss Crystal. I'm an entertainment attorney. I'm the owner of Dukes Up Records, and most importantly, I'm an independent musician. We are releasing videos on this channel once a week to help you with your music careers, including discussing things like marketing and copyright and trademarks and all the stuff that's just so overwhelming. We're gonna get into all of it, so make sure you subscribe. Don't forget to hit that bell notification so you don't miss our weekly videos. So to kind of kick off this conversation, something that I want you guys to keep in mind while we're gonna be talking about how to start your own record label, always think of yourself, especially for my independent musicians, as if you are a record label. And so while we'll talk about the literal registering and starting the label, think about if you were a label, what are the jobs that you would have to do? You would need to be in charge of marketing yourself. You would need to be in charge of getting bookings and setting up collaborations and releasing music. There's a lot that goes into it, but what the most freeing thing that has ever happened to me in my career, and I know this is true for a lot of other musicians who take on the responsibility to know how to do all of this stuff, it's life-changing, and it's definitely career-changing. So keep that in the back of your minds and just feel empowered as we're talking about this idea of actually starting a label and what you can do for yourself. Step number 1, choose your record label name. Now, last week I released a video all about this. I did a super deep dive. You can click that right here. And you'll see in the video that we go through the steps of not only researching to see if the name is available, but also looking on the actual trademark or USPTO website. You want to do this because why put in the investment of time and money to build a label when you might get a cease and desist letter from another owner who owns that name? So let's avoid that entire headache. Make sure you watch this video because when I was doing research, I couldn't find anything on YouTube to this effect. So this is vital information. Make sure you watch it. And besides that, what you also want to keep in mind is kind of the branding of the name that you choose for your record label. Whatever the brand's gonna be as far as the type of genre that you do, or maybe how your label is marketed, what makes your label unique, whatever it is, try to make that represented in the actual name that you select for your record label. Step number 2, define roles. Now, just to use my own record label as a case study, Dukes Up Records, when I started this label with my co-writer and producer, that Orko, a part of the name, well, really the entire name, came from a song that we had written together called Dukes Up. And Dukes Up was all about just being empowered because we had been through so much trial and error, frustration, I'm sure everything that you guys have been through as well. And we had just said, enough is enough. And so it was, number 1, being empowered to start our own label. We're not gonna ask for favors anymore. We're not gonna try and get discovered. We're just gonna do this ourselves. So it came into the actual branding of being strong and empowered. The other thing as well is the type of music that I do. So my music by and far is what I define as aggro pop, which is aggressive pop music. And so it's very much, as we say, Dukes Up, right? Fighter, whatever, boxing. The music also plays into the title, so it's very brand specific for what we're trying to do. So at the beginning, when we first started the label, it was just that Orko and I. But when we talk about having defined roles and having a fully functioning label, there's a lot of different things that are happening all the time. We're talking about, you typically have an accountant, you have your managers for your artists, the booking agents, you have your CEO, your COO, of course you have legal. There are so many different roles and things that happen to have a well-oiled, functioning label. So what happens in the very beginning when you don't have the capital to pay for all those salaries? Well, this goes back to my note a little bit earlier. You have to learn to do it all yourself. And it's a good thing because ultimately it's gonna be really difficult as a label owner to be able to manage your team if you don't know really how to do your team members' jobs or what the expectation is of those jobs because you've done it yourself. So this is something that's going to be helpful when you first start, and just understanding that taking on all of those roles is probably what you're gonna have to do, and as you grow, as you get more funding, you'll be able to expand. Now, going back to defining roles, the importance of this is because there can be a little confusion, and especially as people are starting to help in their volunteering time, people get excited. They wanna be involved, they wanna get ownership, whatever it is. And there's usually a lot of willingness to give away things because we are all just looking for help. And so if you define roles early on, it helps to avoid a lot of issues down the road. Step number 3, register your company. Now, in that video that I referenced in step number 1, I'll just go ahead and put it as an end screen at the end of this video, just because in that video, I also discuss registering a limited liability company, or LLC. Now, to oversimplify this, basically we want to make sure that we're registering entities around what we're doing because it creates a liability shield to protect us when things go very wrong. Now, if you are registering in your particular state where you live, which is where you should, unless you're conducting business elsewhere, the good news is that you have a couple different options of how you can get it done. Number 1, you can hire an attorney. And what you can do is just call a local attorney, ask for their rates, and just see if it's kind of within your budget just to have the attorney do it for you. Number 2, and I know this is used by a lot of independent musicians, but LegalZoom.com. And on LegalZoom, you can pay a fee. They'll put together the paperwork and file on your behalf. Now, my understanding is that every state is different, and so the fees will be a little bit different depending on where you live. I looked in my state before we did this video, and it was about $150 to do the registration through LegalZoom. And then the third option, do it yourself. When I was 16, that's when I registered my very first LLC, and I actually didn't even know that there were other options out there, nor did I have the money to pay anyone, even if I was aware of it. And so I just, Googled how to do it, found some directions, found the paperwork, and it ended up being pretty easy. So if you're trying to save some cash, just do it yourself. And step number 4, get your domain as well as your social media accounts. Now, if you're gonna go and grab a website, maybe from GoDaddy, remember you're gonna have some annual fees that you need to pay, but make sure you get that website as soon as possible. Once you've claimed that particular name for the website, what you're then gonna have to do is build it in a different program or platform. Now, I have a whole lot of experience using Wix, and I actually built all my original websites I have a charity, my law firm, my label, Miss Crystal. Everything was originally built in Wix, and it's just because it's so user-friendly, and it was pretty cheap as far as the annual fees that I had to pay. Now, I eventually kind of converted some of my websites, and we went to WordPress, and there's all kinds of other ways that you can do your website, but if you're just trying to get started, you want something simple, Wix is a pretty good way to go. And after you have the website all taken care of, whether it's just a landing page to connect people with your social media, well, we gotta talk about the social media. If you can at all, make sure that the username is the same per platform. I don't care if you are on Twitch or Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, try to use the same username because again, it's branding, but it's gonna make it really easy for your fans to follow you on all the different platforms. And of course, if you can at all reserve those or claim those names as soon as possible, it's a really, really good idea to do that. Because even if you don't have the content ready to go right now, you don't want to lose those names because you waited too long. And it could happen within an hour or a day or a week, you just don't know. So go claim those different usernames as soon as possible on the different social media accounts. And that way, when you do have your content ready to post, you're ready to rock and roll. So those are 4 initial steps to keep in mind when you're first starting your record label. Now, the good news is that in the beginning, you have a clean slate. So you can call the label what you want, you can make it what you want, and as you begin to grow, what you're gonna find is that people are gonna start approaching you. Whether it's your friends or your family, they discover what you're doing, they get excited because they see your energy, they see your hustle. And so this is how sometimes you're able to get some help in the beginning because people will be willing to volunteer their time. Now, the good apples that you find are probably gonna stay with you long term, and then when funding actually does come in for your label, you can put them on salary, you can compensate their time and just really show that gratitude for all the help that they gave to you in the beginning. What you're also gonna find is that there's also some bad apples, but this is through trial and error. Sometimes there are just people who are not a good fit, maybe personalities don't jive, but you're gonna learn all of that as you go along and as you continue to grow. Now, look, I would be remiss not to say, as the entertainment attorney, contracts are so important for a number of reasons, one of which is defining the roles, making sure everything is very clear about why someone's involved or what their duties are. But in addition to that, things like confidentiality clauses, making sure that the information that people learn about your business, what makes you unique or kind of your trade secrets, that they're not going to take off with that information and use it maybe to start their own business, and so you just lost all the value and goodwill that you put into your own business. There's a lot that goes into these initial contracts that you will sign, but just something to keep in mind that this is a critical step as you are continuing to build to make sure everything is in writing. Alright you guys, I'm gonna get out of here, but thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you have additional questions, please drop them down in the comments below. And then hey, if you want to send me a quick message on social media, it's Miss Crystal Live, or if you have a question, please just let me know. And besides all of that, make sure you subscribe, hit that bell notification so you don't miss our weekly videos, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!